Welcome to the Conspiracy Archive. I'm your host, Ben Carter. In the aftermath of World War II, as Europe lay in ruins, an invisible network of secret agents began to weave its web across the continent. This network, codenamed Operation Gladio, was a clandestine NATO project born from the perceived threat of a Soviet invasion. A shadowy contingency plan, it was designed to activate a network of armed resistance fighters in the event of a communist takeover. Yet, the specter of the Red Scare that gave birth to Operation Gladio soon began to fade, and the purpose of this covert operation began to shift, veering into a realm of secrecy and ambiguity. It transcended its initial mandate to become a puzzling and controversial part of Cold War history, allegedly involved in acts of terrorism, political manipulation, and espionage. The operation's name, Gladio, is derived from the Latin word for a two-edged sword, an apt metaphor for its dual nature. On one side, it was a defensive instrument against potential aggressors. On the other, it was an offensive tool to shape political landscapes, influencing public opinion and swaying the course of history. This duality is an integral part of the enigma that surrounds Operation Gladio. The existence of Operation Gladio was officially acknowledged in 1990 when then Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti confirmed its reality, sending shockwaves through Europe. The revelation that a secret army had been operating under the noses of European citizens for decades inspired a flurry of investigations, inquiries, and heated debates, yet much of its operations remained shrouded in mystery. The clandestine nature of Operation Gladio has made it a fertile ground for speculation and conspiracy theories. Its inscrutable operations, spanning decades and crossing borders, have fueled countless questions. Who were the operatives? What were their true objectives? How deep and far did this network stretch? And perhaps most crucially, did Gladio's reach extend beyond the end of the Cold War, influencing the world in ways we are yet to fully understand? Each shadowy corner of Operation Gladio's history offers a new layer of intrigue, a new piece to a jigsaw puzzle that remains incomplete. The secrecy and ambiguity that surround it are as much a part of its legacy as its acknowledged existence. With each fragment of information that comes to light, the image of Operation Gladio becomes both clearer and more complex, a paradox that encapsulates the enigmatic nature of this clandestine operation. As we delve deeper into the labyrinth of Operation Gladio, we find ourselves entangled in a web of intrigue that continues to challenge our understanding of history. To comprehend the climate in which Operation Gladio was conceived, it's necessary to rewind the clock to an era of unprecedented tension and political upheaval. The ashes of World War II had barely settled when the world was thrust into a new kind of conflict, one that was as much about ideologies as it was about borders. The Cold War, a decades-long struggle between the capitalist West and the communist East, was to become the stage upon which Operation Gladio would perform its covert dance. In the aftermath of World War II, Western Europe, under the shadow of the Soviet Union, feared the spread of communism. This fear was not unfounded. Communist parties were gaining popularity in countries such as Italy and Greece, threatening to tip the balance of power. Faced with this looming specter, the United States and its NATO allies saw the need for a robust, covert defense network within Europe to counteract this perceived threat. Operation Gladio was born out of this atmosphere of anxiety and suspicion. Conceived under the auspices of NATO, with the CIA and Britain's MI6 playing crucial roles, this covert operation aimed to create stay-behind armies across Europe. These clandestine armies, made up largely of right-wing sympathizers and former military personnel, were trained and equipped to resist Soviet invasions or communist takeovers from within their respective countries. Yet, Operation Gladio's mission extended beyond mere defense. Secretly, it played a part in shaping European politics, operating in the shadows to thwart the rise of left-wing movements. It's this murky intersection of defense and political manipulation that has given Operation Gladio its notorious reputation. While the existence of Operation Gladio is now acknowledged, its operations during the Cold War remain largely obscured in mystery. The cloak of secrecy that shrouded the operation was woven with such skill that it continues to shield much of its activities even decades after its existence was revealed. The paucity of available information, combined with the gravity of its implications, makes Operation Gladio a compelling subject for those who venture into the realm of forbidden knowledge. The very essence of Operation Gladio, a secret army operating within the framework of legitimate governments with potential links to acts of terrorism, challenges our understanding of democracy and sovereignty. It raises disquieting questions about the lengths to which nations will go to preserve their political ideologies. It is a stark reminder of an era when fear and suspicion dictated the course of global politics, leaving a legacy that continues to echo in the corridors of power and the annals of history. At the heart of Operation Gladio's intricate web of secrets and shadows stood a number of key figures, individuals whose actions and decisions would indelibly shape the course of this hidden history. One such figure was General Reinhard Gehlen, former head of Nazi Germany's military intelligence in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. After the war, Gehlen was recruited by the United States, his knowledge and network deemed invaluable in the looming struggle against communism. He played a significant role in the creation of Gladio, helping to establish the stay-behind armies in Germany and sharing his profound understanding of unconventional warfare. Another pivotal figure was William Colby, a high-ranking CIA official who would later become the agency's director. Colby was deeply involved in the planning and implementation of Gladio. His tenure at the CIA coincided with some of the most politically sensitive periods of the Cold War, and his influence over the operation was both extensive and profound. The actions of these men, and countless others operating behind the scenes, were instrumental in shaping Operation Gladio. Nevertheless, the operation was not solely the product of individual wills. It was equally shaped by the events and tensions of the Cold War era. The Berlin blockade of 1948–49, for instance, which saw the Soviet Union attempting to gain control over the whole of Berlin by cutting off all land access to the city, was a significant trigger for the establishment of Gladio. The crisis underscored the need for an armed resistance within Europe that could effectively counteract such strategic maneuvers. The Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, a direct confrontation between the United States and the Soviet Union over the deployment of ballistic missiles in Cuba, further underscored the urgency of maintaining a covert defense network within Europe. The near brink of nuclear war during this crisis heightened fears of a Soviet invasion or communist takeover, fueling Gladio's operations and objectives. In the shadow of these events, Operation Gladio was born and evolved, its existence and activities shaped by the tensions and fears of the Cold War era. Even as the operation remains shrouded in mystery, the influence of key figures and events in its conception and execution cannot be underestimated. Each decision, each action, each crisis served as a thread in the complex tapestry of Operation Gladio, weaving a narrative of secrecy, intrigue, and the quest for power that continues to challenge our understanding of history. Operation Gladio's clandestine operations were executed with a level of precision and secrecy that raises questions about the extent of the covert networks established during the Cold War. Evidence of the operation first came to public attention in 1990 when the Italian Prime Minister, Giulio Andreotti, confirmed its existence in a parliamentary session. This revelation was followed by a wave of investigations and inquiries across Europe that began to unravel the threads of Gladio's network. In Belgium, a parliamentary inquiry discovered that the local Gladio network, codenamed SDRA-8, was involved in a series of seemingly random violent attacks during the 1980s, which left 28 people dead. The aim of these so-called strategy of tension attacks was to create a climate of fear and instability, compelling the public to favor a more authoritarian form of government as a safeguard against potential communist uprisings. In Italy, the discovery of an arms cache in a forest near Trieste in 1972 led to the unearthing of the Italian Gladio network, codenamed Gladio Italia. The weapons found were of American origin and included explosives, machine guns, hand grenades, and a large amount of ammunition. Further investigations revealed that Gladio Italia had been involved in a series of bombings and political assassinations throughout the 1970s, again designed to create a climate of fear and instability that would prevent a possible communist takeover. In Germany, the existence of the local Gladio network, codenamed Stay Behind, was revealed by a former intelligence officer in a 1991 interview. It was found that Stay Behind had been involved in acts of sabotage and subversion, targeting both the East German state and left-wing groups within West Germany. These revelations provide compelling evidence of the extent and reach of Operation Gladio throughout Europe. They testify to a sophisticated, well-organized network of covert operatives ready to take drastic action to maintain a balance of power during one of history's most tense and uncertain periods. The true scale of Operation Gladio's activities remains a subject of controversy and speculation. However, what is clear is that Gladio was not a passive force, merely waiting in readiness for a potential Soviet invasion. Instead, it was an active player in the Cold War. Its operatives engaged in a shadowy game of subversion, sabotage, and psychological warfare that spanned the length and breadth of Europe. The legacy of Operation Gladio calls into question the lengths to which powers were willing to go to maintain the status quo, and the secrets they were willing to keep in the name of national security. The evidence of Operation Gladio's existence and involvement in covert operations across Europe is a fascinating jigsaw puzzle of declassified documents, insider revelations, and painstaking investigative work. However, it is a puzzle with many missing pieces, and the full picture remains obscured by the fog of time, secrecy, and disinformation. The discovery of American-made weapons in Italy is a compelling piece of evidence. It strongly suggests external involvement and support for Gladio Italia. The weapons were not merely for defensive purposes, but designed for offensive operations such as bombings and assassinations. Yet, it's important to remember that the presence of American weapons does not, in itself, confirm direct American involvement or sanction of these actions. It's plausible that the U.S., as part of its wider Cold War strategy, supplied weapons to many anti-communist groups without necessarily knowing or controlling their specific activities. The revelations by former intelligence officers and insiders also provide a compelling insight into the operation and activities of the Gladio networks. However, these accounts should be treated with caution. Intelligence work is inherently secretive and deceptive, and those involved may have personal motivations or biases that color their recollections. Furthermore, the covert nature of the operations means corroborative evidence can be hard to come by, and the line between truth and disinformation can be hard to discern. The lack of documented orders or official sanction for the more extreme activities attributed to Operation Gladio, such as bombings and assassinations, raises further questions. Were these actions the result of a rogue element within the networks, or were they part of a sanctioned strategy of tension? Is it possible that the Gladio networks were infiltrated or manipulated by other groups with their own agendas? The evidence of Operation Gladio's existence and activities is compelling, but it is far from complete or unequivocal. Many questions remain unanswered, and many truths remain shrouded in secrecy. This clandestine operation, born in the crucible of the Cold War, continues to intrigue and mystify. As we delve deeper into the labyrinthine world of Operation Gladio, we should remember that in the world of intelligence and covert operations, nothing is ever as it seems. The shadows hold many secrets, and the truth is often stranger and more complex than fiction. Yet there are those who remain skeptical, critics who question the narrative, the evidence, and the implications of Operation Gladio. They argue that these claims are the product of conspiracy theorists, constructed from half-truths and misinformation, fueled by a desire to undermine trust in governments and institutions. One such critic is historian Daniele Ganser, who has argued that the extent and purpose of Operation Gladio have been exaggerated and distorted. He suggests that much of the evidence used to support the existence of widespread Gladio networks is ambiguous or unreliable, such as the testimonies of former intelligence officers, which are often contradictory and lack corroboration. In his view, Operation Gladio was primarily a defensive initiative aimed at preparing for a potential Soviet invasion, rather than a covert offensive force engaged in domestic terrorism. He also questions the idea that the US and NATO had direct control over the Gladio networks, suggesting that individual countries may have acted independently, using the resources and training they received for their own purposes. Similarly, critics have argued that the alleged links between Operation Gladio and acts of terrorism are circumstantial at best. While it's undeniable that Gladio networks had access to weapons and explosives, it does not necessarily follow that they were responsible for the bombings and assassinations attributed to them. These skeptics argue that other groups, whether political radicals or criminal gangs, could equally have carried out these acts. Additionally, skeptics point to the lack of concrete evidence implicating Gladio networks in specific acts of terrorism. Most of the claims are based on inferences and speculations rather than hard facts. They argue that without clear proof, such as documented orders or forensic evidence, these allegations should be treated with caution. Further skepticism is rooted in the complex and secretive nature of intelligence operations. It's noted that disinformation is a common tool in the world of espionage, used to mislead, manipulate, and create confusion. Could it be that the revelations about Operation Gladio are part of a larger deception, a smokescreen to distract from other, perhaps more unsettling truths? These criticisms and alternative viewpoints do not necessarily dismiss the existence of Operation Gladio. Rather, they question the interpretation of the evidence and the narratives built around it. They remind us of the need for critical thinking and rigorous examination in our quest for the truth. As we delve further into the murky waters of Operation Gladio, it is clear that certainty remains elusive, and the full picture may never be fully revealed. The revelations about Operation Gladio and the subsequent debates have far-reaching implications that extend beyond the realm of historical inquiry. The operation's existence challenges our understanding of democratic societies, their institutions, and their values. It raises fundamental questions about the conduct and oversight of secret intelligence operations, the interplay of national security and civil liberties, and the ethical boundaries in the fight against perceived threats. One of the most compelling implications is the potential erosion of trust in democratic institutions. In countries where Gladio networks were allegedly active, the notion that their own government could have been involved in, or turned a blind eye to, acts of violence against their citizens is deeply unsettling. It challenges the social contract that underpins democratic societies, the idea that governments are there to protect their citizens and uphold the rule of law. The revelations also shine a light on the murky world of intelligence operations, their oversight, and their accountability. If the allegations are true, then Gladio represents a major failure of control and governance, with intelligence agencies running amok, disregarding national and international laws, and engaging in criminal activities. This raises pressing questions about the need for robust oversight of intelligence agencies to prevent the abuse of power and to ensure they operate within the bounds of law and morality. The debate around Operation Gladio also touches on the delicate balance between national security and civil liberties. The operation was, after all, born out of fear of a Soviet invasion, a legitimate security concern at the height of the Cold War. Yet, if the allegations are true, the response to this threat involved measures that were deeply undemocratic and potentially criminal. This forces us to confront the difficult question of how far societies are willing to go to protect themselves and at what cost. Finally, Operation Gladio underscores the potency of secret knowledge and conspiracy theories. The operation's secrecy, its links to terrorism, and the conflicting narratives around it make it fertile ground for speculation and misinformation. This has implications for our understanding of truth and reality in a world increasingly shaped by hidden forces and clandestine operations. It highlights the need for transparency and accountability, not just to prevent abuses of power, but also to combat the spread of conspiracy theories and false information. In the end, Operation Gladio serves as a stark reminder of the dangers inherent in unchecked power and secrecy. It urges us to constantly question, scrutinize, and hold to account those who wield power in our name. It also emphasizes the enduring relevance of the old saying that the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. The ripple effects of Operation Gladio on media and narratives are profound and complex. As details emerged, the operation became a focal point in media coverage, involving both mainstream outlets and alternative platforms. It was subject to intense scrutiny, questioning, and debates. The story of Gladio, with its intertwining threads of intelligence, conspiracy, and terrorism, held the public's attention captive. It was, and still is, a narrative potent with intrigue and the promise of hidden truths. Yet the portrayal of Operation Gladio in the media has been shaped by a variety of factors. The inherent secrecy surrounding intelligence operations, the political sensitivities involved, and the complexity of the narrative have all influenced the way the operation has been reported and interpreted. Mainstream media outlets, often seen as the gatekeepers of information, have been criticized for their handling of the Gladio revelations. Critics argue that these outlets have, at times, been overly cautious in their reporting, reluctant to delve too deeply into the operation's murkier aspects. They caution that this reluctance can serve to perpetuate official narratives that may not fully reflect the reality of the operation. On the other hand, alternative media platforms have been at the forefront of disseminating information and theories about Operation Gladio. These platforms have often taken a more critical stance, questioning official narratives and delving into aspects of the operation that mainstream outlets have been reluctant to explore. Yet they too have been criticized for sometimes veering into the realm of speculation and for giving credence to unverified or misleading information. In the realm of public discourse, Operation Gladio has proven to be a narrative chameleon, taking on different hues depending on the perspective of the observer. For some, it is a story of justified security measures taken in the face of a looming threat. For others, it is a tale of state-sponsored terrorism and unchecked power. Still, for others, it is a conspiracy theory, a labyrinth of misinformation and half-truths. The narrative of Operation Gladio is a testament to the power of secrecy and the allure of hidden truths. It serves as a reminder of the influence that intelligence operations can wield over public narratives and perceptions. It underscores the critical role of the media, both mainstream and alternative, in shaping these narratives. And it highlights the challenges that arise when trying to discern truth from secrecy, fact from conspiracy. The story of Gladio urges us to question, to probe, to scrutinize, and to seek out the obscured truths in the shadows of secrecy. Despite the extensive exploration of Operation Gladio's known facets, there remains a vast, shadowy expanse of speculation and conjecture. This realm, often dismissed as the territory of conspiracy theorists, offers untamed narratives that lie beyond the edges of established fact. These narratives, while speculative, offer fascinating glimpses into the uncharted territories of Gladio's influence and purpose. One such narrative suggests that Operation Gladio was not merely a Cold War apparatus, but a long-term strategy to maintain a certain order in Europe. It posits that the operation's stay-behind armies were not only aimed at combating potential Soviet invasions, but were also intended to quell internal dissent and preserve the status quo. The mysterious bombings and acts of violence attributed to Gladio, under this interpretation, were not merely anti-communist maneuvers, but were part of a broader campaign to sow fear and maintain control over the citizenry. Another hypothesis delves into the realm of the occult, suggesting that Operation Gladio was intertwined with esoteric societies and secret orders. It hints at a grand chessboard of power, where the moves of clandestine armies were directed by hidden hands, guided by arcane wisdom and ancient prophecies. This narrative, while exceptionally speculative, embodies the allure of the unknown that surrounds Gladio, transforming it into an enigmatic riddle woven into the fabric of history. There are also narratives that extend Gladio's reach beyond Europe, suggesting a global network of stay-behind armies. These theories propose that similar operations were carried out in other parts of the world, covertly influencing the course of history on a global scale. While largely unproven, these theories underscore the potential enormity of Gladio's impact. These narratives, while lying at the fringes of established knowledge, serve to illuminate the vast unknowns of Operation Gladio. They remind us that for every revealed truth, there are countless others shrouded in secrecy, waiting to be discovered. They provoke us to question further, to look beyond the familiar contours of known facts and venture into the uncharted territories of possibility. Though these narratives are speculative, they do more than simply titillate the imagination. They challenge us to question the limits of our understanding, to reconsider our assumptions, and to confront the often uncomfortable reality that what we know may only be a fraction of the truth. They remind us that history, like Gladio itself, is a complex labyrinth of hidden truths and obscured realities. And they underscore the fact that the story of Operation Gladio is far from finished. Its shadows continue to stretch into the present, beckoning us to delve deeper into its enigmatic depths. As we reach the end of this exploration, the enigma that is Operation Gladio persists, a cryptic presence lurking at the margins of historical understanding. The narratives so far have revealed its many facets: a clandestine army, a political tool, an instrument of fear, a hidden hand of power, and perhaps a global network of unseen influence. Each thread of this narrative tapestry offers a glimpse into the intricate labyrinth that is Gladio, yet the full picture remains tantalizingly out of reach. In the grand theater of history, Operation Gladio is a shadowy player, its role largely obscured by the veil of secrecy. Its existence is an echo of a turbulent time, a testament to the depths of Cold War paranoia and the extraordinary measures taken in the name of security. It is a chilling reminder of the power of fear and the lengths to which governments will go to maintain control. Yet Gladio is more than just a historical relic. Its legacy reverberates through the decades, casting long shadows over the present. The questions it raises about political manipulation, state-sanctioned violence, and government secrecy are as relevant today as they were during the height of the Cold War. The lessons it offers about the potential abuses of power and the dangers of unchecked authority should not be forgotten. The enigma of Operation Gladio, however, extends beyond its geopolitical implications. The narratives that surround it also invite a deeper contemplation of the nature of truth and the limits of our understanding. They confront us with the stark reality of our own ignorance and the vast territories of knowledge that remain unexplored. Operation Gladio, in its multifaceted existence, challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question the accepted narratives, and to seek the hidden truths that lie beneath. It stands as a testament to the hidden complexities of our world, a monument to the mysteries that persist in the shadowy corners of history. As we continue to probe its enigmatic depths, it prompts us to reflect on the nature of knowledge itself and the vast unknowns that lurk behind the veil of the known. The story of Operation Gladio is far from over. Its murky waters continue to ripple, its shadows continue to shift, and its mysteries continue to beckon. As we stand at the edge of this labyrinth, we are left with more questions than answers. But perhaps that is the true legacy of Operation Gladio: a lingering enigma, a provocation to question, and a reminder of the enduring allure of the unknown. Thanks for listening. This has been the Conspiracy Archive. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.